This is going to be a tier list for the Tyrannical week we just did, and then Fortify predictions for the reset here that's coming. I pugged all my keys. I pugged only my key mainly, and this is what I ended up with for rating. I'm going to section off the video, so the first part will be Tyrannical, and the second week will be the Fortify, so it'll be marked so you can skip ahead if you want to see. Alright, let me open the tier list maker. Let's do this. Let's get started. Tyrannical. We'll do Tyrannical on the left side here, the week we just did. Let's just start off with the easiest and hardest dungeon so we can gauge the whole tier list here. I don't even need to explain these. Everyone knew about Underrot and Freehold being the easiest. They were. Time to 20 of this. Basically, I was like 3 seconds off of the 2 chest of this, and I wiped the group on accident once. Ran over a worm that we did not pull. Freehold, I never got a 20 key of this, but I'm pretty sure if I got a 20 key, we would have keyed it pretty easily with a pug even. So those two were easy. I don't think anything else is going to be an S tier with them because they were just by far and away the easiest. Hardest, let's just put lair in D. Also, everyone knew about this. Some nerfs came through, but it's still a wildly hard key to do. I did a 21, a 20, and a 19, failed all 3, and my group left on all 3, and then I timed the 18. I didn't do that much of this dungeon, to be honest. I kind of stayed away from it. My key didn't roll it very often, so I guess God bless. Yeah, it's just going to stay in D there. Next up, let's do Bracken, because I feel like at the very start of the week, we had lair and Bracken as like the two that no one wanted to get. They just thought it was doomed. Bracken was kind of hard with the totem having 50% more health on the last boss. But this dungeon was actually an overreaction at the start. I think it's pretty easy. The first boss is now the hardest boss, I think, after the totem nerf, and then it's the last boss. The rest of the bosses are easy, and it's actually just an easily keyable key. You can even die on this key quite a bit. The timer is not that tight. I would say this is an A tier key. Maybe not the top of A tier, but for now, this is going to be A tier. And yeah, it's a good key to get now. I ran a bunch of this. I also completed a 20. Not in time, barely, because my casters stacked on the totem boss and trolled themselves, so we didn't key that one. But yeah, alright. Next up, let's just do Neltharus, because this one's going to go in B tier right here. This one has a pretty nasty healer check on the Magma Tusk, and then some of the other bosses are okayly difficult, like the Forge Masters. Like, there's, like, actually all of them are heal checks, right? Every boss in here is a heal check, with the Magma Tusk being the hardest one. This one's just harder than all of these. It's going to be harder than... I'm just going to put these here now. It's going to be harder than these as well. I don't know where these are going to fit, but yeah. Alright, let's talk about these two now. So, Vortex. This one, honestly, could be, like, rated B for this week. Only because people did not know the mechanics, and you actually have to do the mechanics on these bosses. Jumping over the halo of the cloud on boss 2 and timing the jump on boss 3. People weren't really used to it. I mean, it's an easy mechanic to do, but people were failing so much at it. It was really frustrating. It's an easy key, actually, but man, were people just not good at doing it week 1. But in a month, this key is going to be one of the better keys to get on Tyrannical. I think maybe it's here. I think it's the 3rd easiest. Yeah, I do. I don't know if it's up here. In a month, it might, by the way. It might. I never got a 20 key or a 19 key to run of Vortex, so it's unfortunate that I just have an 18 of this key, but I think it's easier than these. Also, infusion, the bosses, again, are like, do the mechanics. Like, 3rd boss, 4th boss, frog boss, you need to run the frogs into the frog so he gulps them all. Like, it's kind of just do the mechanics. Honestly, this one is a trash dungeon for sure. The trash is hard in this one. Halls of Infusion, Tyrannical, not bad. I think it's an A. I think it's a good key to get. It's long though, so I don't like getting it because I know I have to do a long dungeon, but it's a good one. Last up for Tyrannical, we have Uldaman. Fuck this dungeon, guys. Oh my god. I ran Uldaman the most of any dungeon. The highest I keyed was an 18. I failed like 10 19s. Granted, in Pugs, this is the most common dungeon to just get left because there's back-to-back boss 2 and 3 are really hard. And it's one of the longest dungeons, one of the most annoying dungeons. So people just leave it all the time. And yeah, I did multiple 20s, never beat it. The lizard boss is the hardest boss, I think, of all dungeons, actually, because the only strategy is to immune. If you don't play immune classes, like, it's actually cringe. You get the bleed, you get the knockback, and you die. I wanted to do a strategy where on every knockback that someone has a bleed, you just stun him, but no, my pugs did not want to run that strategy. I actually think even if the boss starts ramping up damage from stunning him so much, it doesn't actually matter because he's not getting that wombo combo off that is just one-shotting people. I think that strategy actually would work, but I never got to test it because my people hate strategies that aren't the known strategies, I guess. So I think for this key, so my 18 key was a +2, by the way. If you have a group that can do the key, it's easier than Nelth. If you're non-pug, it's easier than Nelth. It even goes here, or maybe, nah, it's not B. It goes here. Because they give you overtime to complete this key. They give you plenty of time, more than you need. It's easy to chestable if you can do it. But I think it has the hardest walls, of bosses that you just will not beat with certain groups. If your group is not good enough, you can't beat the dungeon, right? So I think it's harder than lair. I failed percentage-wise way more Uldamans than lairs. Yeah. They both have massive walls. The Uldaman wall just felt harder, but if you immune the lizard boss, then if you have a group together, if you're a class, if you're a lucky ass paladin, okay, it's a better than lair. There you go. But if your class is stuck with no immunes and stuff, it's worse than lair. So we'll just leave it that. Let's go to the Fortify. So Fortify, let's just drop our easy dungeons in the easy tab because they are still easy. Then let's do the hard one of lair. I think it might go to C, to be honest, guys. Fortify is easier. The boss wall's now gone. The timer is a little tight, so if you're wasting a lot of time and deaths on this key on the trash, you could fail it. Now, the hardest trash is the jagged disc throwers. Those guys back in Legion would just one-shot casters all the time. It was complete bullshit. I have a feeling it's going to be the same exact thing. And the avalanche that comes down, one-shots. So that is going to be your hardest fortified dungeon. It's going to be harder than Uldaman. And that one, the bosses are still going to be pretty difficult too, guys. So, yep. I'm going to put in C because Fortify should be easier. But it's going to be hard. Now let's get to the spiciest take. Neltharus. This one is going to be a surprise because it is actually going to be my pick for the #1 easiest dungeon on Fortify by far. This dungeon, the key timer is not that bad. And the trash is the biggest joke of all the dungeons for sure. I was doing 20s and 19s where we would go pull every mob up to the chain boss, the one where you pull the chains through the boss, and it's like 6 or 7 packs. We didn't care. We'd pull all 30 of the mobs, AoE, CC them down, just dodge the frontals. And this is on 1920 keys as a pug group. And this was actually one of the common strategies people were doing. Like, the trash in this dungeon is a joke. The only trash that's scary is the ones that can molten core if you don't kick the molten core. And then the last little gauntlet of trash is a little scary, but it's nowhere near to even Underrot or Freehold is more scary. Like they really are. Underrot, like the insect little arena area could be actually quite scary on this dungeon. A lot of the things in Underrot, by the way, already one-shot you on Tyrannical if you fuck them up. Like the maggot that spews, and the fixate is going to be kind of crazy now, though. So, I don't know. These are going to definitely be easier, I think, even on Fortify than Tyrannical. You should be able to key higher keys. But Neltharus, what a joke of a dungeon, man. When you don't have the healer checks of all the hard bosses, like, wow, the trash are so easy on that one. Alright, let's do Uldaman next, because this one I have in last place for my Tyrannical, because I hate this one. Fortify, you're not going to get walled so hard on the bosses. It's going to be easier because of Fortify. I think it's a B. The trash on this one, though, with the basilisks that need to be kicked and the chain lightnings that need to be kicked, usually chain pulled into each other. You have to have mass stun and kicks for this. I believe people are also going to die just like lair on this one to trash, and it's going to be pretty unavoidable on like 20 plus keys. You're just going to have deaths. But the thing about Uldaman is the timer for this key is awesome. Like you can have 20 deaths and probably key it as long as none of the deaths are wipes. Like let's say you just have 1 or 2 miscellaneous deaths on trash every now and then you run back. Yeah, you're chilling. You're chilling. You're going to time that key. All right, we have these last 3 that were all in A tier. Where are we going to put them now? Bracken. Still A tier. Don't think the trash is that bad. Maybe the first gauntlet, if you get fixated, you're just insta-dead, but you kind of were already insta-dead. They no longer have raging for this next week, but I don't know if I should count that in. This is more of an overall tier list for Tyrannical and Fortify, but I just don't think the trash is that hard. The bosses are now easier. Yeah, I mean, that's an A tier dungeon. Man, maybe I should do like something like this almost, because and move them all. I'm not going to, but like I swear these don't match. Like the A tier Bracken is S tier maybe. We'll just do this. It's S tier. I think it is. I think it's easy now on Fortify. I like just come on. What are you dying to on Bracken? Like actually how are you losing your Bracken key on a Fortify? I don't think you are. Vortex, trash kind of nuts on this. I think this is actually a trash dungeon. Like the bosses, realistically, if you do the mechanics, should be kind of easy. There's only the healer check on boss 3, but I think the bosses should be easy, but the trash hit hard. I think this one actually might get harder. I think Vortex might get harder. Not well, the thing is, week 1, people were just messing up because they didn't know the dungeon. So people are going to get better at it. So I guess you will key higher now just because people are getting better, but it actually is harder on Fortify than Tyrannical weeks. I think that'll be how it shakes out in a month. Halls of Infusion. These bosses were easy, and the trash honestly are worse than Uldaman. This one's hard actually on Fortify. The donut holes at the first part of this dungeon are gonna nuke people down. It's gonna be like lair. This one is gonna be a lot of deaths for sure on trash. The frogs, yep. Don't go the door route because there's gonna be too many frogs to deal with on Tyrannical. Man, is this a C? I don't know. It's hard to predict, but you don't want to get a halls compared to last week. Halls, like now you want Uldaman over halls. So I think we'll just leave the tier list at this. Looks pretty solid overall. Fortify week, we love it. We love it, especially as a Windwalker, guys. We love Fortify. Mass stun, mass AoE, touch of death. All good. We're gonna key every key at 20 this week. We'll have more gear. The dungeons are easier. We'll key every key at 20. All right. Yeah, that's the tier list for Mythic Plus. Hope you guys enjoyed.